Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the Thursday night hanging out, working on comic stream. It's me, Dave. Hello. Hello to our new mods from the Discord. Yabo. Love to you. Oh, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Oh, I did about 1 million drawings today. I'm not done yet, but I'm feeling it. Usually that stuff doesn't do much to me, but man, I'm doing some big compositions for game, and it's eating me up. Coming up with some stuff. Sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. It's funny with like art. It's like you always think, yeah, that's not very draining. But then, man, sometimes like the trying to figure out like solving a composition problem or something like that just makes me so sleepy. So I'm drinking a little bit of coffee right now to compensate for that. But I got a ton done today. I feel really good, and I wanted to catch up on the comics. It's been a little bit. I finished every single inked page. It's all done. Everything is drawn and finished. Even the title and end pages, those are done. It's all done. All that's left is coloring, which is so easy. It's very exciting. So thank goodness for that. I'm feeling very positive, very happy about it. Also, yeah, did taxes, and that was brutal. My wife, Kim, is in the chat. Yeah, that was brutal. Oh, but man, I'm seeing the finish line. It's so close. It's so exciting. I had a deadline for myself for this comic, and I'm actually gonna hit it. I love that. It's not too bad. I was worried. I was like, maybe I won't make it, because I usually give myself like for deadlines, I give myself like a couple weeks of like error time, because I'm like, if I do mess up, tack on a couple weeks to the end of that deadline you're giving yourself, because yes, you could probably get all those pages done in that amount of time, but you never know what's going to come up. You never know. So it's just add time to that so you don't, underestimate anything. But I'm pretty much dead on, or a little bit ahead of the schedule I set for myself. So I feel great. So now it's just doing color fills. I've actually been doing most of my color fills in that's funny. I was wondering if that was actually that color. I've been doing it in Krita because I like how quickly I can paint it all in. And I also have like my reference up for previous pages, like here. I have to turn off like every single effect layer that I have, because I do like soft light and different types of like color effects on the pages. So I turn them all off so that I can do just the pass on flat colors, and then I do all of those like adjustment things in Photoshop after. But we're in the home stretch. My plan is to hopefully get a decent amount of distance covered on my current deadline that just came up, and then I can hop back into this and wrap up this comic. I don't know exactly how much time I'll need to call this done, but not much. On the deadline topic, have you ever missed deadlines for clients? And how do you handle short deadlines? Short deadlines, I'm fine with. Like, I don't really have any sort of special thing that I do. I just don't agree to them if they're really short. Like, if they're impossibly short, I don't say yes, because I don't want to promise something I can't deliver. But for ones that I just, I think I can realistically make, I just kind of power through it for the most part. But in terms of like how I plan my time, well, it's hard to say. I don't go into these things blind. I don't go in without having like an idea of what's possible. For the most part, like I usually have a pretty good grasp on what I'm going to be doing, and okay, I can make that deadline versus another. Like if I like a lot of my really tight deadlines that exist nowadays are for comics. So if I'm working for, like, let's just say, like I just posted up like a DC cover that I did. Like let's just say like a comic company wants me to do a cover. It's a super short turnaround. I basically tell them like if I can do like a single character shot or something like that, then I can get it done in around a day or so. That's generally what I'll tell them. I'm like, anything more than like a single character though will probably take me a little bit longer, and I might not make, a couple day deadline or whatever. But that's about it. The only things that get a little stressful have to do with like jobs that have not just a quick turnaround but multiple revisions, and they'll have revisions that are very specific to whatever's going on in the development of the game or something like that, like I'm working on a video game. And then with those types of jobs, it's a little bit different because I still have to, like if they're paying me a day rate or something, and I've been working on it for a while, but something suddenly shifted and now we're doing whatever else with it. Like those are a little bit harder because I can't just say I can't do that because I'm already in like the middle of it. I'm in the middle of the project. And for jobs like that, I just kind of power through it. As far as missing a deadline, I don't really ever miss deadlines. And if I do think I'm going to miss a deadline, I let them know ahead of time. That's the number one thing. Like, it's all kind of communication. That's really it. Like, don't like drop that onto people that you're not going to be able to make a deadline the night of the deadline. Like, don't do that. Like, just tell them ahead of time. Like, I'm getting kind of close with this, but time's running out and I don't know if I'll make the final deadline. That sort of thing is important, because if you don't say anything and then you spring it on them, they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes with you. And most clients are pretty understanding for the most part, especially if you just kind of lay it out like, I did my best, this is where I'm at. Like, send them a picture of where you're at the night you message them with that information. And they'll probably, they might not be happy, but at least they'll have full context and they're more likely to be cool with it. Don't forget the challenge review. I will not forget the challenge review, Maddie. It's just having to catch up with clients and then do taxes. That's all. Otherwise, I am alive. I'm here. I exist. Oh, whoops. Drawing on the wrong layer. So people were asking for a while for me to do streams where I just color the comic. So I hope you're cool with this, because this is not very exciting. I'll tell you that much. It's just all fills. Just going over stuff, just coloring it in. I like doing it this way for a number of reasons. I like little errors. I don't like doing the fills with a bucket, paint bucket. I like having it look a little bit sketchy. Anything that adds a little bit of handmade quality to it is kind of what I'm after. Do you have any stories of completely botching a client piece, either in missing deadline or just quality? Let's think. I'd have to go back in time. Like I've been pretty good about that for a long time now, so most of that's like, you know, over a decade ago. Let me think. Botching one? I don't know if I've ever botched one. I think the worst thing that I would do back in the day was I'd be working for a client like Magic the Gathering, or I'd be working for just somebody that I've worked for like a handful of times in the past. And I'd kind of get into this routine of working on whatever for a client, and you just kind of get, you know, if you're not careful, you can get kind of complacent with stuff. And I think that's what happened to me with Magic occasionally. And not that I would like phone it in or anything, but I could feel myself kind of slipping off and not delivering the quality that I wanted to deliver. And that happened a few times where I'd just kind of rush out a composition. And if the composition wasn't, you know, solid, then the image wouldn't end up being solid. So if my sketch and my initial idea and how I planned out the piece, if that didn't work, then it wouldn't work in a final painting. But I was so used to just doing the work that I'd be like, oh, that's good enough. I could definitely, you know, pull that together by the end. And then inevitably I wouldn't be able to, and I'd just be like trying to do anything and everything I could to make the piece look good, even, you know, given that it wasn't great anyway. The bones of it weren't very good. And I just like, I don't know. it was shitty whenever that would happen, and it would be like a rush job, sort of. And that was probably the worst of it. Like I can think of like the few times I did that where I was like looking back at the painting like after I had done it and just going like, God damn, this sucks. Don't do that again. Just trying to make note. Just like, all right, that didn't work. Whatever you were trying to do. Trying to rush these things. Like you can't rush it. And I think that's partially why I spend so much time like trying to improve my speed in art, where I'm like, oh, the process needs to be whatever, because like, you know, just sped up. As I just always felt a little impatient. Like I have a million ideas of things I want to do, and I just don't have enough time to invest in every single painting I'd ever want to do, or every single comic or idea. So instead of just sticking with the current process that I had at the time, I would focus on speed. I'd be like, okay, get faster at this, and then you'd be able to do more. Then I was just kind of impatient in general, and then that would, you know, show in my work. Good jobs like that. But even then, they weren't like botched. It wasn't like everybody knew it or something, or people were disappointed. I just disappointed myself, and I'd look at it and go like, I know that sucks. Whether or not anybody else knows doesn't really matter to me. Baron Von George, love how Kim just has to be around every stream because of tension, or because, you know, she's my wife. How do I hide this person? Oh, let's put them in a timeout. Here's a 30-minute timeout for your rude ass, Baron Von George. Kim doesn't need to be here. She could be getting high, watching a magic show on Netflix. She's here. She asked me, she said, you wanted me to be in the chat talking? And I go, yeah. We're a family, ain't we? I always wonder what people think in those circumstances. As if I would side with Baron Von George. Yeah, man. Women. Yeah, man, women. Am I right? Come on, Baron. Come over to the house. Let's have a beer and hang out. You're cool. You're very cool. Remember that thing you said about my wife being in the chat because she wants attention? That was cool as shit, dude. Hey, have another beer, man. Why'd you stay the night? Like, what do you think? I think that's cool? Heavy dork energy. Do you memorize how much shading you add to a particular area to keep things consistent? Or I think about where the light is, but most of the time I don't care about kind of moving the light just to appeal to the scene. If it adds like a dramatic kind of look to things, then I don't really care about it being, you know, perfect consistent throughout every single scene. As long as it looks cool. Thanks for all the compliments on the comics so far. I feel good about it. I gotta wrap it up, bring it home, have it be done. Get to look at the whole thing, have that perspective. I'm excited about it. All right. You're getting Nemo and Dreamland vibes? Absolutely. That's the inspiration for this whole mini comic that I'm doing is Little Nemo. I have like the huge print book right up there on my shelf, that like giant format. I love that book. That's part of the inspiration for the way that the panels are laid out. I was looking at a lot of the old Nemo. I mean, it's not like they're 100% a reference to that, but it's just inspired by it. Like, I didn't go back and look at the Nemo book and then do my comic. I just have it in my head, and then I'm thinking about that comic while I make this, so that there's, that inspiration's there. After a certain point in this stream, I'm probably going to just turn to you all and answer questions for a minute, because I'm super wiped out and I don't want to fuck up the comic. It's because my brain is in a very slow place. I'm getting a personal trainer, by the way. I'm just waiting for somebody to be assigned to me, and then I can start exercising, because I've been putting on weight just so fast. It's crazy. I don't know if it's just bad habits eating, or if it's I don't feel like I'm eating that much worse, or just my metabolism just is vanishing, which is entirely possible. But man, it's brutal. And it's so funny. My kids, my son Axel, he'll be like, Kim and I, we take turns, who's going to be putting who to sleep. And we just rotate every night. And when it comes to Axel, he'll be like, I'll be like, oh, Axel, I'm putting you to sleep. And he goes, yeah, the fat one's putting me to sleep tonight. Woo! It's so funny. And the other day, he said, what did he say? He was like, you're my favorite, Papa. And I was like, oh, I love that. I was like, why am I your favorite? And he went, because you're big and fat. He goes, you're like a huge toy that I can play with. And I was like, God damn. All right, I'll figure it out. I'll fix this. Yeah. Yeah, Axel loves me the most because I'm the chubby one. That's what Kim said. But I mean, it's funny. I like it. I like that he feels comfortable to just make fun of me. It's very funny to me. A couple of classmates are getting work in the industry. Meanwhile, I'm still working part-time. How do I not get consumed by jealousy? Thank you for your time and consideration. Well, you just have to be proactive. You got to be putting stuff out. Like, you can't worry about what other people are doing. It's like, it's different for everybody. I feel like when I was younger, when I was like 19 or something, I didn't realize just how early I was in my career. Like, I felt like I needed to go. I got to get this wrapped up. I got to figure it out. I have to really, get a career moving and start flying through this. And I was in like such a rush. And I thought that, like all of these other people were going to pass me by. And I came up with a bunch of young people getting into art. And I was very self-conscious about that stuff, so I pushed super hard. And I think I could have taken my time a little bit. It's like I started getting work, at 19, and I felt like good about it. But it was all like learning on the job the whole time, which I think is normal, and you learn forever doing art, but I don't think it's worth getting jealous over. It's not something that's like, it's not something that you can't work at. Like, if you're feeling yourself tending towards being just jealous of classmates and friends and whoever who's getting this work, you have to just sit down and make stuff and put yourself out there and constantly try to improve and whatever. But like, I don't know. It's just junk to worry about what other people are doing. I'm very competitive, but for me, like with myself, like not for other people. I don't really care what other people are doing. Like, you should be very happy that your friends are getting work. And I know that that's easier said than done. But that's the place to be. Because if you become resentful of other people, you don't really do anything. Like, everybody that I ever knew who looked at other artists and said, how come they're getting work and not me? Unfortunately, they were losers and they never really did anything. And I can say that with complete confidence, having like essentially like 20 years of perspective from that, like where these people ended up and whatever. Like, anybody who made fun of like other artists, like, they shouldn't have that job, I should have that job because I'm way more qualified or whatever. It's like, okay, who cares? Like, what does that matter at all? Like, it could be as simple as they're funner to be around, so people hire them because they like talking to them. It's like, it's not all skill based. And yeah, that type of behavior, it's very, for lack of a better term, it's very toxic and just, it doesn't get you anywhere. And I'm not saying like you're abnormal for feeling this, by the way. I think it's entirely, understandable why you'd feel that way. It's not fun. What did I just do? Okay. I gotta look back at this one and see what I did so it's consistent. Let me get it back into Photoshop. Alright, so I turned off all of my like adjustment layers. I'm just gonna turn them on. Okay. Just trying to see if I did anything special with my highlights. It's been a minute since I did any colors on this comic. The Scunch and Snooper. What do you wish you knew when creating a comic? Any guidance for creating a story? What do I wish I knew? I don't. There's nothing I wish I knew besides how to tell a better story. But I think the number one thing was just make stuff. Like that's really it. It's like be proactive in how you seek out information and then just make stuff and don't worry about it failing. Like I guess if I could go back in time and talk to myself when I was like early 20s, I would drill into my head that it doesn't matter how these comics come out, you won't get better at making comics unless you make these. So these won't be the only comics you make. It's just one of them. And if you don't make these, you're just gonna be stunted at this level forever. And you're never gonna feel confident making stuff. So make stuff. Worry about the results, after the fact. People aren't gonna remember all the times that you made super shitty comics. They're gonna remember the one that's the hit that works. I just wish I felt safer to just make stuff and I was less self-conscious about it. That's really the worst thing you could do, is just it's this thing of like thinking other people care, where they do, but it's really you. Like you're the one holding yourself to this crazy standard, and it's not good. Like it's not like healthy to be like, oh, don't make anything until you're perfect. It's like, well, then I'll never make anything. Because all the like story advice I'd give myself, like I don't know, like there's general advice I'd give. I would say like follow that rule of, if this then this. Like if something happens in a story but then this happens, if then and but. It's like following that rule, that story rule, is very helpful. I use it nearly every day now with kids, like telling stories to the kids. I just make up stories constantly, and that's been a great experience. And I get to see like what they get kind of captivated by versus other stuff. Like if I start riffing on a story, I get what like holds their attention, and I just have this nice audience to build up that skill set. Obviously, that's not why I'm doing it, but I can tell, that it's helpful to do that. I would write a lot of like short stories. stuff that you have to resolve relatively quickly. Because I think that there's a weird safety in having an ongoing story where you never really have to face that uncomfortable end where you go like, how do I dismount from this and have it be good? Also, I would say this just as a side note, because I remember this feeling. If anybody in your life makes fun of like your story or anything that you want to do, don't listen to them. Or they go out of their way to be like, yeah, that wasn't very good. I mean, it's cool, but it's not great. It's like, just disregard it and keep moving. It's all about momentum. Just move. Like, they might be right. It doesn't matter though. Certain things are good though, like on that front. If somebody says something and it bothers you in like a weird way where you can't stop thinking about it, it's worth breaking that down and being like, okay, I've thought about this like a handful of times in a week. What is it about what they said that touched a nerve? Is it just my insecurity, or is there truth there that I'm afraid of? And a lot of that is, a lot of that comes down to being like addressed in the work itself. So it's not like it's super valid where, the only way to work at it is to think about what they said. But it's nice to not shrug off everything. Because some of that stuff is going to be true. But the unfortunate reality is that it might be true a bunch of times. You just have to keep making stuff until it's not. Because even people like Stephen King, like they have a hard time ending stories. Like, it's just not easy. Everybody's gonna have whatever shortcomings that they have. All you can do is continue keeping pace, make stuff. Of course, Skunch. Happy to help if I can. If you were to hire an artist to be a part of the blue sky early pre-production phase, what kinds of things would you like to see? I'd like to see a lot of ideation process in a portfolio. I would love to see just weird ideas, obscure stuff. Nothing that's like, the last thing I would want is somebody who could only do like finished paintings. If all I saw in a portfolio was a bunch of finished paintings, I'd be a little skeptical, because I need to see like quick concept design, and in that quick concept design I want to see just weirder stuff, just things that are loose and fun. That's really all I look for. Clever, creative concepts. Yeah, and the thing with that is this artist doesn't need to be super skilled. They don't need to be able to paint and render like a master or whatever. They just need good ideas. Good ideas are everything. You know, if there's a good like blueprint of an idea there, I'm not really worried about having them make it look super done by the end. It doesn't matter. It's just, is it cool? Then, you know, we can use anybody else to render that up to like a finished stage. And if this person's just like amazing with ideas and original concepts, then they can stick to doing amazing original concepts. How much did figure drawing play a role in your growth as an artist, and did you have to stop creative work to focus on this for a time? Yeah, I would do it like every morning for an hour or so, every day. That stuff's extremely important. It's just fundamentals. You have to think about it like, oh, I have to take time away to do this. It's like, no. Recalibrate how you're thinking about it. It's not, I'm taking time to do this thing, and isn't this, oh, this is like taking vitamins, this sucks. If you don't do that, you don't get fast on the other creative side. So if you avoid drawing a lot or whatever, then that's just always going to be a problem for you. And if you start doing the uncomfortable things that you know are maybe just not your favorite or whatever, then that'll stagnate you. A not that famous artist, I'd say, for creative concepts would be EO58. Man is mad and he only streams. Cool. Yeah, I was streaming daily back in the day. Dave, do you ever get surprised? Oh wait, there's a question right before this. You should tag at Dave Raposa for questions. How much did figure drawing play a role in your growth? Oh wait, no, I read that, sorry. I told you my brain is fried. Dave, did you ever get surprised by stuff you draw and write? Is it bad that unless I experience that, everything I do seems like a chore or wrong? I thought about it, and it's the number one thing that holds me back. That you're not surprised? I think that's too convenient of an excuse not to work in my mind. Maybe that's just my workaholic talking, whatever. But I think that you shouldn't give yourself that easy out. I think that you don't just wait for inspiration to happen. You just sit down and you start writing stuff, or you just start making stuff, and then you put in that time every day until your mind is kind of like calibrated, always thinking of those things, always coming up with stuff. You know, like in the lamest example possible, I'll give you this because it's dumb. My buddy Dan that I do Steve with, he was always good at making like puns and stupid like bad jokes like that, like when we were young. And I always thought like, oh, that's funny how quick you are with that. And I was like, I wonder, you know, if I could build that muscle myself. And so I just started being conscious of it. And every day I would try it, and I would just think about all these things all the time until I could just do it, you know, whenever. And like I always can make those word associations and stuff, and it's not like it's super funny or anything like that, but it was just something that I wanted to do because I wanted to make corny jokes with Dan. And then I just kept up with it and did it every day, and then eventually I was like, oh, this actually isn't difficult. And I think that's the same sort of idea with like stories. Like if you're writing stories all the time, and it's just something that's constant for you, then you're always thinking about that sort of thing. And you're always in that mindset. You're going to get surprised by stuff as you make things. But I wouldn't have that be the reason that you don't do stuff, is because you're waiting for inspiration. Because inspiration's not going to come, you know, all the time. Like sometimes you just have to treat your work like work. I'm self-taught. I learned anatomy, and now what I do is take an artist and copy their style to the small lines and memorize it. Is this a thing, or am I doing something wrong? Let me just say this. Number one, you didn't learn anatomy. You're always learning anatomy. Forever. That's not something that, like, I did it. Next. Like, that doesn't really happen. Like, you're not going to master anatomy. Now you take an artist and copy their style to this. I mean, you don't have to copy their styles to like the small lines, but it's not unhelpful. You know, like I used to put like what I would call almost like a goal up for myself. So not in a negative way, and I didn't like proclaim this to the world or whatever, but I would put an artist that I thought was great up on my screen, and I wouldn't stop working on my stuff until I felt like I got to a level like that. And so I kept them as like a reference of a benchmark to hit, of like what it meant to be good. And that was very helpful to me. And I studied their stuff in a similar way to like what you're saying, but I wasn't like one for one copying their work. I was trying to just get my stuff to be at a similar level to their stuff. To clarify on the figure drawing question, you never binged outright? Not just an hour, but for months, just hammering on it before returning to creative work? No, never. You just stick to stuff that you can actually maintain. It's the same idea as like a diet or anything in your life. It's like if you want to create a new habit, you don't work in like extremes. You don't burn yourself out. You do something that's actually manageable for you. So it's less about, you know, I'm getting this all done at once, and it's more about I'm getting into a good, healthy habit. So it's like I sit down and I just do it every day, so that over time I'll get better, I'll see results. It won't be right away, but I'll be more consistent than if I did it every day for a month and got burnt out and wasn't thinking about it anymore. It's like, you gotta have balance in your life with that stuff. You can also get into a not great mode of never being creative. I've known people that went to like a atelier, like a specialized art school, where they did nothing but studies and then lost all their creative side and felt a little stunted in that, like coming back to doing creative work. So balance is really key. Feel like you have no creativity, you just copy things a little. I mean, everybody works differently, One of the harder things, I think, is coming to the conclusion that you don't need to be like another artist. Like, for a long time, you're gonna sound like everybody that you love, like you're gonna look like their stuff, draw like them, have the same sort of subject matter, whatever. Like, you're going to be a little bit of a mirror of everybody that you observe. And then after a certain amount of time, you're going to get to a place where you have to stop, and you got to just, you've learned a bunch from these people, but now you got to figure out that it's okay to just be you. Like, you'll never measure up to your heroes. It just will never happen, because you're not them, you're you, and whoever you are has value, and you need to find that confidence that sees yourself that way. And it took me a long time to really come to that conclusion and be like, I spend so much time associating value with these people and not with like what I naturally like to do. And so I need to be like them, or else I'm not doing anything special or interesting. And then I needed to take a break from looking at artists and just start making my own things that weren't so based in like the academic side of art. And through that, I was able to really see myself and like what I like again, and who I was when I was a kid, and what got me into art in the first place, and the kind of things that I would do when nobody was looking at my work. Like, what did I do in the, borders of my notebooks in high school? Like, what was I drawing, and what did I want to do, versus like, what do I see as a career because my heroes do that? And that opened me up to a million opportunities, and I just went like, oh, I just need to really dedicate myself to doing the things that I want to do, as opposed to thinking that there's always somebody out there who's doing the right thing and I'm not doing that, and that I should, but I'll never measure up to them. Because other people will tell you that you're good, when you get there. You probably won't see that in yourself. Like, I look at my own stuff, and like I'm not down on myself like at all. Like I look at like this thing and I'm like, this is cool, you know, in a vacuum, what this is, like I like it. But if I were to always think of like who I would rather be from other artists and things, like I don't know, like that's just poison to me. Like I think about the way this comic looks, and I think like I've never really seen a comic that looks like this. Not exactly. I didn't need another artist to have done exactly this for me to see myself being able to do it. I just was like, okay, make the things you want to make. What is Veil about? It's about a goddess who was jealous of her children and what they made in the world, and how she gets her revenge on them, and then what happens to her when her creator shows up and sees what she's done. How many pages is this going to be? It's 23 pages total. It's pretty short. It's just like a short, like fable type of thing. Guy, I'm not about to do a witch voice. You can't make me. Do you have an idea when this will be out? I don't know. I have to talk to my print people and all and see what we can do. You're curious about those behind closed doors stories with elite artists and others? Oh, I don't know. That makes it sound like it's actually cool or something. It's not much. I mean, they're just normal people. I honestly like I've never really had like incredible stories with like artists or anything. It just like everybody else, just random people who are doing art. Some people are very fun and cool. Some people are really awkward. Some people are super interesting and weird. There's just the whole spectrum of people. Man. Yeah, I ran out of steam. Sorry, everybody. This wasn't the most productive stream in the world. I got a decent amount of stuff done as far as fills and painting on top goes. I'm going to answer some questions and hang out for a minute. And then I'm going to hop off. And I promise I'll have a more productive stream next time for sure. Sean says, I've been working decently hard at becoming a better artist, and I love making stuff, but I feel like I have no voice or culture in my art. Like, you always talk about an inspiration. How do you go about feeling like you're not included in something you never did as an artist? How do you go about feeling like you're not included in something? I mean, it's more about like exposing yourself to just any number of interesting things. It's like it's really just about getting into stuff for me personally. Like I'll go down rabbit holes and get really into like a specific corner of the art world, or just inspiration from some certain book, or like you were talking about, some sort of culture reference or whatever, and I just kind of am naturally attracted to that sort of thing. But that's not everybody. Like I wouldn't put yourself in any sort of like narrow box, because any number of things is interesting, you know? Like I wouldn't look at like Scott Pilgrim and think like, oh, there's not enough like wild, crazy fantasy ideas in there. That's just not what it is. And every artist has different sensibilities, because everybody's a person who relates to things differently. So like, I wouldn't be so hard on yourself. It's that thing of thinking that like somebody else has some magic whatever to them that makes them unique and interesting, versus you like, oh, I'm not that. I'm sure there are things about you that are unique to you. And if you're worried about having a voice, you know, that all comes out as you improve and gain skill over time. It's not something that you can force. It's not something that you can like necessarily seek out. You know, maybe you can, but I wouldn't say that it's something that like you can go and find and then come back and be like, okay, this was the missing link. Because if you're keeping your head down and you're always working, like, you're going to find those things. Like for me, like I'm hitting breakthroughs in my work like pretty consistently, where I'm feeling like I'm discovering new things about myself, or reaching a different kind of like goal that I always had in my head, or just like nebulous things that I couldn't really grasp before are now within reach. Like a lot of those sort of things happen just by consistently mining over and over into my brain and trying to see like, what am I pursuing? Like, what is this thing that I'm hoping to gain from all this work? And the more I analyze it, and the more I just kind of keep my head down working, I feel the closer I get. And I don't think it's something that you can just find, you know, without effort. Like, you really got to work at just your skills, and hopefully those things manifest. But it's what you're attracted to naturally, like whoever you are. Like there are plenty of artists and things that I'm not necessarily into. Like, I'm not crazy about any number of comics and things that exist in the world, but there are people who relate to those things and enjoy them. And there's there's space enough for all of us. So I don't think you should beat yourself up over that sort of thing. it comes. You just have to stay consistent. Like I could have said that a million times about my stuff, or just looking around the room and seeing my contemporaries and being like, oh, I'm not them. You know, like I used to always look at like Marko Djurdjevic's work and Six More Vodka and like the way that he could draw forms dynamically. And I'd think, oh, wow, that's amazing. But I had enough experience to be like, I can't be like him. I'm not that person. But I see his work ethic. Now, I might not be able to be these people in terms of their style. I'm never going to paint like Craig Mullins. I'm never going to draw like Marko. But I can work really, really hard and figure out why I'm special, or just what makes me unique in this field. And I can find that thing, and that will be the thing that defines me, you know, to other people who maybe might look at me like I'm, you know, a Marko type of character. But yeah. Zach says, I don't know if you remember this, but back when I was in high school, I painted you as a horror creature milkman, and now I'm working as a professional on games. Absolutely. I do remember that. I was wearing the old milkman hat and I had milk pouring out of my mouth. I remember that very much. That's amazing. Congrats. Josh says, do you have a written or structured method to develop your ideas each time, or do you often just start drawing and build from there? The really good stuff comes from inspiration for sure. But a lot of that stuff can come from like just music, hanging out, going for a walk, reading a book even. Like I've had stuff where, honestly, like I went through a phase of just reading every like World War II Pacific book, and I got so many ideas from that, like story ideas and different things. I think like reading like real life accounts of people in very dramatic situations really helped kind of recalibrate my mind to think of like stories and things, different ideas, weird situations and whatnot that people are in. Like those types of things add a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of like fuel to just kind of think about stuff. But I don't have like a set way of doing it. Like kind of what I was saying before applies here, where it's just the sheer effort and amount of work being put out. Like I will hit every once in a while. Like I will hit something that I really feel good about. And, you know, it's about like just staying working at the desk, like just being dedicated to doing this. And then I'll find little bits and pieces of gold here and there where I'm like, oh, that was great. That thing actually worked. Like, thank fucking God. Like that'll happen to me. But yeah. All right, I'm gonna hop off of here. Thanks everybody for hanging out. If you want to help support the stream, you can jump onto the Patreon link below in the description. It's $5 a month. Everything since the beginning of the Patreon is available right away. You know, you can hop off the Patreon whenever you want. If you just want to look through all the videos in a month and then take off, or download my stuff and take off, feel free. I'm not precious about any of that stuff. Yeah, there's a Discord, challenges, all that sort of thing on there. I appreciate all the support, and I hope that everybody who's into this comic checks it out when I put it up on Kickstarter. Eventually I'll announce that when that's available. It's almost done. We're so close. This is page 13. I have to color. Goddamn, I had to color 10 more of these, and then that's it. Hey. All right. Love to you all. Have a good night. Thanks for all the good questions.